Hola, welcome to Latino Music Cafe Reviews, where I try to review, some of the latest recordings in Latin music. My name is Hector Avilés. I'm an avid Latin music fan, a music fan in general, because I like all sorts of music. And today we have an interesting album to talk about. This is the 2010 release by el maestro Bobby Sanabria from New York. His album Tito Puente Masterworks Live. So the story of this album of Tito Puente Masterworks probably starts or goes back to about 37 years ago. Because 37 years ago, a then 17-year-old Bobby Sanabria was backstage with in a Tito Puente performance, and he asked the maestro if he could sit in the back and watch the performance that the maestro was going to have, and the maestro agreed. And that probably was the first of many crossroads between these two great musicians. So with that, I'm going to talk about some facts about the album. Let me check my notes here so I don't go like rambling around, and I can talk forever about this, and not only about this album but about Latin music in general. Okay, this is the fifth album that Bobby Sanabria releases, his third one live. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that live, those live recordings, in a few minutes. He recorded them, as I said, with the Manhattan School of Music Afro-Cuban Jazz Orchestra. What things I like about this album? Well, there's several things that this album has that are great. The song selection was, I thought, was excellent, which is probably the hardest thing that probably Maestro Bobby Sanabria had to do. There's two things I think that were very hard. Number one is to do the song selection when you consider Tito Puente's 100 albums and who knows, thousands of songs. How to come up with 13? It must have been he must have been pulling his hair trying to figure out which 13 songs to include here, because there's so much to choose from, so much good stuff to choose from. The band executed tremendously well for some young musicians and recording live. So Bobby Sanabria, the other thing that probably went a lot of work into, not only was his song selection, but the rehearsing of this orchestra. I mean, he did a fantastic job. You listen to the first song you listen to this album, you know that this is a very, very well rehearsed band ready to record live, and they did a great job. Another thing that I like about this album is that the scores, the arrangement for the songs these are not softball. These are pretty complex scores that these young musicians had to perform, and they did it very well. But the scores are it's the selection included some of Tito Puente's more complex arrangements and compositions. So the band lived up to the challenge. They really did. Let's see what else I have here for things that I like. I like the variety of the music. You have 3 mambos, you have a cha-cha-cha, you have a bolero that Rachel Perez sang very well, Me Acuerdo de Ti, a song that Tito Puente recorded with Celia Cruz in the album Cuba and Puerto Rico Son. I thought it was a great touch there. And some jazz, I call them jazz classics if you want, jazz standards that Tito Puente made them standards, like Picadillo, I'm talking Cran Can Can, and so forth. So great variety of music as well there, and great musicianship, if I said that correctly, because these young guys not only perform well while following the score and the music, but also when they do their solos, you can tell these are very talented musicians performing, probably under pressure there to perform live and record, and they did a great job. You can tell the musicianship is pretty good. It's great that we have that. Which talks about, one thing that is not here. I'm going to go a little bit off script, which is about Bobby Sanabria and how, the great job he's doing in terms of getting young people to like this type of music. And in talking about Bobby, his passion also comes through in the album. I haven't noted here because he does a couple of, you can hear him yelling and directing, through the album. And particularly at the end of the recording, he yells out, "Que viva Tito Puente!" And you can feel that he's saying that from the bottom of his heart. So then, if all that thing went so well, what I didn't like about the album? Well, a couple of things really. Number one was that I didn't think the instruments that Tito Puente played were highlighted enough. There were like 2 timbal solos, one by Maestro Sanabria and one by one of the students from the Manhattan School of Music. The vibes were highlighted in one song, and so or maybe 2 songs, Autumn Leaves and maybe another one, Picadillo might have been. And so I would have liked a little more highlights of those instruments. Not a lot. I mean, you don't want 13 songs with all of them with timbal solos, so you're gonna go crazy. Tito Puente didn't do that himself, but a little bit more. I would have said. And the other thing was the two songs that I would have done different. 2 songs that I didn't care much about. One was Mambo Buddha. There was already 2 mambos in the album that I like more than Mambo Buddha. Mambo Buddha, I thought it didn't do much for me. Never did. From the first recording that Tito Puente had of that. And Ritual Fire Dance was the other song that quite didn't do it for me. I would have selected something different. For instance, if I had a chance, I would have told Maestro Sanabria to include one song from the repertoire of Tito Puente and Santos Colon. I'm a salsero, and I like, to have, a little bit of, let's shake it up. This Tito Puente music is never too slow. Now, the song that he recorded of the repertoire of Tito Puente Celia Cruz, it happens to be a bolero, Me Acuerdo de Ti. I would have said Santo Colon is a great bolerista, but I would have selected something different. I would have selected maybe a classic like Sepárala, as the one that comes to mind. And the other one, probably my favorite for this album, would have been La Leyenda, which Tito Puente recorded in the album of The Legend in the 70s. And a song that Rubén Blades wrote for Maestro Tito Puente. Whoops, there goes my paper. And that it was a great song because it talks about Dice la leyenda, solo un rey tiene el timbal. And so after listening to 12 songs from Tito Puente, have that as the 13th, the last song, kind of as a summary of all the work Tito Puente did, would have been a good fit there. So that would have been my selection. So with that, what is my recommendation for this album? Well, my recommendation is that this is a great buy. I mean, this is a great album for jazz fans in general, for Latin jazz fans in particular, because it's the masterworks of El Maestro Tito Puente. Well performed, great music selection, variety of rhythms here included, great performance, great musicianship, and the quality of the audio was excellent. And so I think this is a great album to have in your library, particularly if you like big band music or some big band sounds. This is a big band album, so if you like it, you're going to love this album. Great album. I also have to, I think the work that Maestro Bobby Sanabria is doing in bringing the music from our great musicians from the past, Machito in the previous album, Tito Puente in this one, having young musicians record that and have that kind of relived for the generations that we have now, the younger generations hopefully, will keep jazz and Latin jazz in particularly very alive. That is my review for this album. If you please leave comments. I always like to hear from you. What do you think about this album in particular or this review? And you can leave them right down there. So always a space for comments. And with that, I really thank you for listening in and watching, and keep listening to Latin music, because you know we have the best music in the world.